dead.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Fucking prove it.
The last full Saints Row game we got was in 2013 with Saints Row 4. Ever since then, we got Gat Outta Hell in 2015, which was practically an over-glorified Saints Row 4 expansion. We haven't heard a peep from Volition in years until 2019 when we finally got some info about a new Saints Row game being in development. We didn't know anything though. Was it going to be a reboot, Saints Row 5, a soft reboot? We knew nothing. It wasn't until the first trailer came out that we found out that this was going to be a full reboot, and that these were going to be our new Saints. I am all for reboots, especially considering where the story went with the last entry. Another question was, is it going to be like Saints Row 1 and 2? Or 3 and 4. Fans of the series, or at least the hardcore purists, I suppose, really wanted to go back to the way it was played in 1 and 2, which I would have been happy with. However, I was a huge fan of 3 and rather liked 4 for what it was. So at least from my perspective, I didn't care at all with what style they were going to be. All I care about is, are the characters good? We had Pierce, Shaundi, Johnny Gat as your main 3 since the second game, so the new Saints had big shoes to fill. And I'll be honest, when I first saw this picture, I was a little worried, just like a lot of the fans. I couldn't care at all with what the protagonist looked like because you can customize what your character looks like. It's not like GTA where you have a protagonist and you can change what their hair or clothing looked like. Saints Row was known for its freedom of creation, which was one of the main things that drew me into the franchise. It was our new main 3 that had me worried: Nina, Kevin, and Eli. My biggest problem with these 3 is that it is very hard, especially with Eli, to convince me that these 3 are psychopathic killers. Now, I am willing to suspend my disbelief, especially with a game like Saints Row. However, in the game, just like with every Saints Row, you have rival gangs you must defeat. Both Nina and Kevin are both in their own gangs, which in my mind allows me to have some sense of believability when it comes to these 2 being fine with killing people. Eli, on the other hand, is not in a gang, nor has he ever actually shot a gun in his life. All 4 of you live in an apartment together, so it's understandable that maybe financially wise he has to stick it out with you guys just to deal with it. But when it comes to forming the Saints, he is absolutely fine with being an accessory to murder or actually being the murderer. Now, it would be fine if he came off as creepy like a Norman Bates type character, but no, he just acts normal, completely normal. Nothing about him comes off as being okay with murder. And I know people, including me, had a huge problem with how these characters dressed besides Nina. Kevin looks like your average TikToker and Eli looking like a Carlton wearing hipster ass looking motherfucker. Nothing about these guys screams to me street gang. But the thing is, while the original series went from street gang to media empire, they were pretty much already trying to skip the whole street gang part and build it up to be an empire from the rip. Which I get, because with the amount of crazy shit they do in this game, couldn't be possible with just any normal street gang. And I am fine with that because doing the crazy stuff makes the game fun and entertaining and keeps the current style of Saints Row. So how do I actually feel about the rebooted Saints Row video game? Well, looking past and suspending my disbelief hard with Kevin and Eli, I actually really like this entry. I think at the end of the day, Saints Row the 3rd is still the best one. If they are able to build upon with what they did with this one and make some improvements to the follow-up, if we get one, then I believe we have a lot to look forward to in the future. The story of the game is that you are a part of a military/security organization, which I think is actually awesome considering we never knew any history of the previous boss from the original. Over time though, you grow to learn that you and your 3 other roommates are just scraping by to make ends meet and come to the conclusion that, hey, we should start our own gang and create an empire. And that is how the Saints are born. No longer is Keith David recruiting you right off the street into an already existing gang. The story is fun and entertaining, but way too short. I mean, it's very short. It was to the point where the game tells you, hey, this is the last chapter, are you prepared to continue? And I'm like, damn, we're here already? Which, don't get me wrong, I think it's about time that we start normalizing shorter games, because it seems like every AAA title is trying to make the biggest games out there. So Saints Row is a bit of fresh air, but even I think it's just a little too short. For this review, I have already beaten the game twice and started a third playthrough. At the beginning of the game is where you will create your Saint. Saints Row has always had a great character creator, and probably the best one in video games. You just have so much freedom, and not only that, you have up to 8 different voices to choose from. 8. That's insane. Maybe that's why the game is so short, because either they wanted 8 voice actors, or because the game was so short that they could do 8 voice actors. I don't know which one it is. There are some things though about the creator that bugs me. Like the fact I can't have gloves, rings, necklaces, or watch without removing the jacket. The previous games allowed you to do it, so why are we working backwards here? Not only that, but the amount of bugs and glitches I experienced with the creator is asinine. There would be moments that the color of the clothing would revert back to its original colors, the clothing would be removed completely when loading in from a mission, the game controls completely freezing from trying to select certain options, which is what happened to me in the first 5 minutes of playing the game, so I had to hard reset the game multiple times just to figure out what was happening, or animations just being completely wonky and not working properly. Now, this wasn't Cyberpunk 2077 bad, but I don't know how bad it was at launch because I got this game about a month later so. But from what I experienced was still very annoying. I have gone on huge rants before about how I feel like game studios are still selling us broken ass games and expect us to just allow patches to work itself out. I have gone through this before, so I'm not going to repeat myself because I am just so tired of it at this point. If this happens again, which is inevitable at this point, I'll address it in a later video. But for now, all I'll say is, Volition, please just do better. I hold Saints Row so near and dear to my heart because of the characters and stories you have given us over the years. So please, just treat it with a bit more respect that it deserves and your loyal fans who keep paying you money to experience this. Moving on. Probably one of the biggest things I love about this game is the ability to use your character creator on the go through the in-game mobile app. No longer will I have to go to a separate wardrobe or hospital to change my character's look. You could just do it on the fly, which is awesome. Now, how do I feel about the map? Saints Row no longer takes place in either Stillwater or Steelport, but now in a desert Las Vegas inspired Santo Eliso. It is a very open map with a lot of open roads and off-roading locations. I heard some people complain about how it just feels empty because of how open and spacious it all feels, but I don't mind it because it's different compared to the last 2 places this series brought us. I probably wouldn't want to come back to this map next game, maybe something more woodsy, I don't know, just change it up. I don't like how we were in Stillwater and Steelport for multiple games, so I wouldn't want to visit the same map yet again unless you were going to expand upon it and make it absolutely huge. I love the way the driving feels in this game as well. It is a huge overhaul on how the last games felt. I was never a fan of how the Saints Row driving felt in previous games, which in turn made me not care about ever customizing my ride. But in this one, the driving doesn't feel too arcadey. The cars feel like they have actual weight to them, and the drifting mechanics is actually really fun to use at times and is pretty responsive. I love with what they did, including signature abilities to certain vehicles as well, like infinite nitrous or ejector seats. I also enjoy being able to ride on the hood of your car and jump into a wingsuit that makes traversing through the map even more fun. The shooting mechanics seem really good as well with this latest entry. Very soft aim assist and opportunities to make things go boom. I also love the addition of the takedown ability. The previous games allowed you to run up on people and perform an animation, but with this, it allows you to do some pretty awesome, badass, and some funny moments to kill your enemy. And some that are just downright brutal.
And there we are.
This mechanic is what made a lot of the game so much fun for me. And on top of that, the music selection is incredible. I enjoy listening to certain songs on the radio, but it's during the missions when specific songs play in the background that hype up the mission you are on. It's like the mission in Saints Row 3 where you take over the new Saints hideout but put in throughout the entire game. An issue I had, however, was that some of the audio mixing just seemed very off to me. There were times where I felt like your boss's dialogue was way louder than everyone else's, and you could barely hear characters talk over the radio. The sound of engines and tires screeching felt way too low or just non-existent. Another thing, when making a video game, there shouldn't be any moment where I'd feel like I am bored. There are things throughout the map that you can discover to increase the money you earn through various ventures you place throughout the city, but discovering the history of certain locations
and was the first industrial-scale brewing operation in Santo Ileso, dedicated to serving the thirsty miners and metal workers of Kavanaugh County.
I don't give a fuck. And sticking with the Saints Row roots, odd jobs and activities have been brought back through the means of creating new ventures to build your empire. And insurance fraud continues to be my favorite, and I'm so happy they brought it back. So all in all, I really enjoyed this newest entry of Saints Row. If you are a die-hard fan of the franchise, especially with 3 and 4, then you will enjoy it like I did. If you are expecting the style of 1 and 2, I hate to break it to you, but I think those days are long gone. I don't mind it either, because while I love Saints Row 2, which is what brought me into the franchise, I love that the series found its identity with being the over-the-top and wacky game. I don't need it to be grounded and serious. I have Grand Theft Auto for that. So I think it's getting a little bit too much hate than it deserves, but I think Saints Row is worth a playthrough. Guys, my name is Pedro Ordonez, also known as GameLight7. Please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up. Do whatever you guys can to support this channel. Let me know what you would like to see me talk about in the future, and I hope to see you guys in my next video. Peace out.